Today for Gabbing with the Guru, I am absolutely thrilled and honored to have with me one of my all-time favorite musicians. As a founder of bands like Throwing Muses and Belly, she has written the books on music over the past few decades. It is the one and only Tanya Donelly. Tanya, thank you for making time for me today.
Thank you.
You know, it's clear, and I've read about that you grew up in a very musical family. But can you remember the first album that you bought with your own money?
That would be the Go-Go's Beauty and the Beat. And I wore that thing out.
So you had to go get another copy?
Yeah. No, I just that was my first. It was like I remember that feeling, and the colors, the blue and pinks of that still to this day get me every time I see that cover.
Even at that age, was your music taste as eclectic as it seems to be today?
Yeah, it was, and a lot of our parents, Kristen and I, both of our sets of parents, separately and combined, had extensive musical libraries, so we had a lot of that music at our disposal that we loved at our disposal anyway. And our dads in particular are very, still to this day, current about what they listen to. Like, they are always buying new music, so that was always available to us too. The Go-Go's did not make it into my father's library, so that's why that one was
okay, that was yours.
A rogue.
So were you into kind of that early, what was happening between kind of punk and pop at the time, kind of that mixture?
Yeah, we've never really been time specific, so we listened to really old stuff and really, the stuff that was happening at the time.
And I think a lot of that is what you hear in those early Throwing Muses records, where there's just so many different influences happening at once. But with the work you did there and then the work you were doing with Belly, it was kind of, for lack of a better term, it was ahead of its time. When you guys were creating that, did you make a point of, we don't want to sound like anyone else, or...
No, and in fact, I think Kristen said this before, but we really thought we sounded like everybody, or like the stuff that we love. We never made a conscious decision to not do something because it sounded like someone, or, in the other direction. It's not like we were unconsciously making music, but it wasn't, definitely not, let's try to sound different. And it really wasn't until people started saying that we sort of noticed, that we weren't really falling gracefully or easily into any context, but that had to be pointed out to us.
and when it was, did it alter kind of the creative process going into the next record and the one after that, or?
No, not really. We were, and I think the Muses as they exist now continue in this spirit. We were not insular, but definitely had our bubble, and when the music was being made, there wasn't really any external force. I mean, a couple of times, the label, when we were on a major label, would say, can we have something that's got a chorus? And so we tried that a couple of times. But that's the only time. And then we sort of treated that more as, let's see if we can be craftsmen.
And last night, seeing you guys live again, it really seemed like you didn't skip a beat. Like, did it feel just the same as it always did, being up there and playing those old songs?
Yeah, I can't emphasize, there's no exaggerating how much I love singing with her. I just feel so completely natural to me, and I love playing with them, and I love them as people. They're my, and just musically, it's sort of just locks in. And this is an overused phrase, but my muscle memory really kicks in with those songs. It just relearning them, I started about a week out and realized I kind of get it. I got it. Because it just sort of all comes back.
So jumping into the stuff you did later, even after Belly, the solo work, it takes the idea of being eclectic musically and really pushes it to the extreme. I mean, you've got Hawaiian sounds, especially on the Swan song series. There's some Latin roots in a lot of these songs. Let Fall the Skies, it almost has a really nice quiet lounge feel to it. Are you just kind of like, I feel like playing this sort of music today? Does it depend on who you're in the studio with?
It depends on who I'm in the studio with. And I asked the people that I asked for that very reason, because, I knew that, with Let Fall, I knew Joe was going to bring me the jazz song I'd always wanted to sing. And, my friend Chris Ewan from Future Bible Heroes, I knew he was going to bring me the trip hubby clubby music I wanted to try. And with him specifically,
sure.
It's not an open genre for me, but with the way he does, his work. And so everyone that I worked with, it's not that I knew what I was going to get, but I knew that it was going to end in a song that I would love. So
is there some big name out there, or some name for you that's big that you're like, oh man, I really want to collaborate with this person?
I kind of want to keep it homier than that. Like
Sure.
I haven't really reached beyond my pool for that reason. I think Mary Gateskill was the furthest out, and and I mean, I guess just for history's sake, before this whole thing ends, I'd like to do one with Kristen and one with Kim and see,
As a fan, am I supposed to read into the title of Swan Song series?
That was, a little bit. It was more tongue-in-cheek than
Okay.
I think it's being, because it's a series that
Sure.
has no end.
Okay.
The volumes have an end. The next volume that comes out is the end of the proper volumes. After that, I still have people sending contributions, so it'll be more like a song at a time
Okay.
from that point on. But I don't have an end date
Okay.
for any of it. All that really means is this is the last home for the songs that I'm writing.
It kind of seemed like, you had the solo records, and then there was, a number of years where there was nothing, really. And then all of a sudden there's just this explosion of new songs. Were you hoarding them for a while, or did you just start saying, I want to put some stuff out?
Before I started putting them out, I think there were 10 that were completely done. And then it's just been we've been just regularly in the studio for getting ready for each volume. We have the skeletons of everything, but just in terms of who's going to play on what and do what.
Speaking of people that you've worked with, you got to do a song with Mark Sandman on your Beauty Sleep record, and it's one of my personal favorites. How did that come into being, that route?
That came because for 15 years, Mark and I had sort of talked about, we got to do something, let's sing together, and we had done lots of shows with Morphine, and I loved him dearly as a person and as a musician, and love him. I'm not going to put that in the past tense. So when I had that song, I finally felt like, okay, this needs a male voice to anchor it, because it felt so ethereal. And so his voice is the one that I heard. His voice, he sings like a cello, sang like a cello. And so I just wanted that sort of resonant, beautiful thing to anchor my voice on that. And he came in, I think it was one take, nailed it.
What is because you pull from so many different places. What is your creative process? I mean, is it just when you're in the room with them, you start writing the lyrics? Where does that all begin?
It's song by song. With the collaborations, the people who live in Boston with me, we have been in the same room together and done it together. And then I came here to do some stuff in Brooklyn with the Brooklyn people. And so those were all physically, we're working on stuff together. Everybody else sent me fully fleshed out backing tracks, or just a few chords, or the sheets of paper. So it was different for every single thing, which was also exciting.
And I know when it came out, a lot of people were talking about it very quickly. The words to Salt, the Faded has always been my favorite color,
Yeah.
which is a gorgeous line. Is that one of those things where you write it, you're like, oh, that's an interesting little line there. And how do you feel when sometimes people take your lyric and twist it into something you're like, oh, no.
Yes,
no.
that's what I was worried about. And that one actually I was anxious about, because it sounds defeatist, and it's not at all. The spirit of that one, and I think I put in the liner notes for that one, that this was written on a particular day, in a particular mood. It is not my, my fundamental belief system. But I do feel also that it's something that's important to say without it sounding like, I think people are so afraid of not aging, that's too simple, of just sort of entering your life in a way that you never thought you were going to as a young person. And so that's sort of what that one is about. And in being in a relationship for 20 plus years, and how that river flows. And Bill, I wrote that with Bill Janovitz, and he and I have both been with our partners for over 20 years. And I think his musicals, just the structure of it, and the fact that I was writing with him, and we all as couples talked about this, that's where that went.
And you're releasing this all through Bandcamp. Do you see this as kind of where music is headed, because in terms of distribution?
I don't know. I can't really speak to that. It definitely is something that works for me right now, and that I feel, I love being able to control the content, and to do it as I need to do it, and the art, having control over the artwork with the artists that I'm working with.
Is there any chance that it might see other media releases, like maybe some vinyl?
I would like to do vinyl.
Those covers are gorgeous.
I know, the covers are gorgeous. Sue McNally she's a friend of mine, but just aside from that, just really one of my favorite artists. I mean, I think they read when you're looking at the, even in the digital format, but when you're in front of one, they're huge, first of all, which, like, I mean, really huge. And they're just, like, you just want to walk into them. They're so beautiful. So, yeah, I would love to actually and that is the strongest reason why I would like to do it in a vinyl format, is because I would love to see her work in that format. Would be so beautiful.
So out of everything that you've written, all of the songs that you've birthed, is there one that you look back and you're like, that is the one that you're most proud of?
Oh, God. I don't know. That's really hard. There are ones that I like. I don't know. It depends. Like, there are ones that I love to play. Like, I love playing Swan live. That feels really good to me. I love Hungry Life, This Hungry Life. I do like that one. I feel like that is a really unusual one for me because it's so clear. I'm saying everything exactly as I mean it. Nothing is cloaked. The imagery is extremely straightforward. It's really sort of as if I'm writing a letter to somebody or talking to somebody, and I don't usually pull that off, and I feel like I did in that one. So that one I love.
Your daughter is on the current final volume of the Swan Song series. Other than it sounding really, really nice, and it does she have the same bug, the I want to write and play music bug?
She does. She also has a lot of other bugs too. She's got a theater bug. She's got a science bug. She's a great writer. It's something that she is taking ownership of, so she's keeping it a little bit apart, which I think is important right now. She'll come and ask me if she's recording for technical advice or something like that, but I know she's writing songs because I can hear her in her room, but we're not really involved in that.
So after writing so much over all these years in such a diverse range, what inspires you these days? Where do you draw your inspiration for writing from?
Probably still this just human relationships of every kind, every level, and how we affect each other, even in just brushing by each other or diving into each other. That has always been hugely interesting. And then a lot of it also just sort of, not to get too spooky about it, but some of it does just, it is true that a lot of things come out without me always knowing where it's coming from, and then I figure out later what I was talking about. And it's always, when working with these other artists also, getting their stuff, these stories come out that I had no intention of ever telling, and even a couple of times that I had gone out of my way not to tell. So that actually has brought out things too that I wouldn't have done without those people. And I think that's one of the nice things about writing with other people, is that you don't repeat yourself. All those little things that you've been trying to not say will come out. And musically too, I play chords that I wouldn't normally play. It's just been, from beginning to end, just a joyful, really, I keep using the word fun, but it's fun.
It's fun. It's
been
fun.
Great, yeah.